Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity out here at Para Hills. I've just had a client come and ask me to look in the options of subdividing or developing a property and just looking at the best way to try and do it. So what I thought I'd do is come out and check it out, and I thought I'd take you out here while I'm looking around, give you a bit of feedback on the things you've got to look out for when you're looking at doing development. So just come and have a look, flick it around here so you can have a good look. So first thing you should notice is that well, you can almost notice that by looking at the street. So you can see the street across the road, how it slopes down. So that means that you know that this house is going to be below the road. So the first thing that's going to tell us is we're probably going to need, hey Dave, thanks for joining. We're going to need some sort of retaining walls down the side of the house. And if you look at the existing house here, you can see here that the house next door is built up quite high relative to this house. So, and you can already see they've got some retaining walls down the side of the house there. So if we're going to be subdividing this down the middle, it's about a 17-metre frontage. So we subdivide that down the middle, we're going to have, whatever that is, two 8.5-metre frontages. So they're relatively narrow. So what that's going to mean is we're going to have to use the full width of the block. So that means we're going to have retaining walls going right up to the edge of that fence line, which means they're going to be pretty significant retaining walls. They'll start off quite small at the front, and as they work their way back they're going to get deeper and deeper. The other option is you try and raise the house up, which is what they've done next door, and then what you start doing is bring in heaps of fill, and suddenly, because the footings of the house have to go down into natural soil, then your footings get really deep, and then it ends up being almost as expensive as doing all the retaining walls. So it's something you have to consider. The benefit you get by raising the house up to say where the house next door is might save us some money as far as stormwater goes, because what we need when it rains, we've got roof water and we've got surface water. So we've got water that lands on the roof of the house, which we've got to get to the street. We can do something called a sealed system. That means that the gravity of the water from the roof is going to push the water out to the road, and because it's sealed, then the water just sits in there all the time, and then as it rains again, the water just gets pushed further and further down. But I think the issue is going to be what's called surface water. So the water that lands in the backyard and in the driveway and in the front here, all that water has to go to the front street as well. And obviously, because that water's lower than where the street is, the only way to get it uphill is to put a big tank in there and catch all the water at the back of the block and put a pump. So we pump it up to the street every time it rains, which you can imagine a big tank and a big pump is going to cost you a fair bit of cash. So again, that's part of the issues we have to consider here, is do we raise the house up like the house next door? Which hopefully then we might not need the tank and the pump, and again we might not need the retaining walls between this house and the house next door. What that's going to mean though, we are going to need retaining walls on the house on the other side then. So we're still going to have issues. We're going to have issues with retaining walls regardless. We're potentially going to have issues with stormwater regardless, and we're still going to need retaining walls at the back of the block, and then likewise when we start bringing fill in, we have all these issues with footings and a whole pile of things. And so the reason why that matters for my client, if he's just going to subdivide and sell the land off, then it's not really his problem. He doesn't really care. The next person that buying it then has to consider all those issues. But if he's going to want to build these houses and hang on to them, then he's going to have to deal with all these issues with stormwater and retaining walls and the big deep footings and all that sort of stuff. So also the other thing we notice at the back here is there is some trees at the back there. They're relatively small. Unlikely to be significant trees or what they call regulated trees, so there shouldn't be any major issues as far as that's concerned, so that should be okay. The other thing we just look out for, obviously they've got, you look at what's on the council land, so they've got a sign there on the council land, and they've got a tree there on council land, and they've got a stove pole on council land. So if we did want to subdivide this and we've already got a driveway on one side, but let's say we wanted to put a driveway on the other side, we've got a sign stuck here and they put another tree there, and then they put a stovey pole. So suddenly, where do we put our car to drive through there? So that might be a bit of a hassle as well. You might be able to go into council and ask them to remove the tree, which might solve that problem. But maybe they like the tree and maybe they don't want us to remove it. So these are all the sort of things we need to think about when we're doing a subdivision. Hopefully it's all made sense to everybody, and hopefully you got some use out of that. If it's all made sense to you and you found it interesting, click on the like button. If you don't like it, then click on the like button anyway, because I just appreciate it anyway. And if you think someone might find that useful, if they're looking at doing a subdivision and they're not really sure about things they need to think about, then click on the share button. Or if you've got some questions you'd like me to answer in the future, then click on the comment box and I'm happy to answer any questions. If you've got any questions about this side as well, I'm happy to answer anything you might find interesting. So thanks guys, and we'll catch you again next time.